All right, let's dive into one of the greatest comeback stories in history. It's all about a leader named Nehemiah, who was given a mission that looked, well, completely impossible: to rebuild an entire city basically from scratch. So I want you to picture this. We're in Jerusalem, right after the brutal Babylonian exile, and the city is a wreck. The walls that were once its pride and protection, they're just piles of rock. The gates are burnt out husks. This isn't just a construction problem, it's a crisis of survival, of identity. And the people who live there, they are just broken, totally vulnerable, completely demoralized. I mean, for years, they've been living surrounded by the rubble of their past, a constant reminder of their defeat. The city's spirit is just as shattered as its walls. And this brings us to the big question, right? When everything's gone wrong, when the job ahead is just massive, and everyone's morale is in the basement, what in the world does it take to lead people out of that? Nehemiah's story is basically a masterclass in how to do it. So where do you even start? Well, Nehemiah's first move wasn't some grand proclamation. It was a plan, a brilliant plan that was all about teamwork. He got that this couldn't be some top-down command. No, it had to come from the people themselves. It had to be an all-in effort. And just look at who answered the call. This was not your typical construction crew. You've got the high priest, Eliashib, right there in the derrick leading the way. You've got goldsmiths, perfumers, people you would never expect to see hauling rocks. And my favorite part? Families were taking responsibility for the section of the wall right in front of their own house. It was just this incredible picture of everyone coming together. You know, that image of the high priest working next to everyone else, it really gets at a core leadership principle: humility. The source material for this explainer tells this amazing story about Charlemagne. At his funeral, they announced all his royal titles, but the cathedral doors wouldn't open. It was only when they said, "Charles, a lowly sinner," that the bishop said, "Him I know, enter." That's the kind of humility that gets people to follow you anywhere, a leader who isn't afraid to get their hands dirty. But of course, when you start making this much progress, someone's going to notice. Opposition starts to creep in, led by these two guys, Sanballat and Tobiah, and this sets up a classic showdown: the builders versus the blockers. Their first weapon of choice: pure ridicule. One of the ringleaders, Tobiah, just starts mocking them, calling them feeble. He actually sneered that their wall was so pathetic that if a fox just jumped on it, the whole thing would collapse. The goal here was super clear: crush their spirit before they could even get going. And this really shows you the heart of the conflict. On one side, you have the faithful. What do? They plan, they pray, and they work. It's all constructive. On the other side, you have the faithless. Their strategy? To plot, to ridicule, and, as we're about to see, to threaten. It's all about destruction. And yeah, the opposition didn't stick with name-calling for long. It escalated, and it escalated fast. As the builders started closing the gaps in the wall, that mockery turned into pure rage. That rage turned into a conspiracy to attack the city. And then it got deadly serious. They made it direct death threat. We will come among them and kill them and stop the work. Suddenly, the stakes are life and death. Okay, so you're a leader, and now you're facing death threats. What do? This is where Nehemiah's leadership really becomes legendary. He doesn't panic. He doesn't back down. Instead, he comes up with this incredible two-part strategy. This quote right here really nails Nehemiah's whole philosophy. He leads the people in prayer, but that's not where he stops. He also posts a guard. He completely understood that faith and action have to work together. You pray for God's help, and you post armed sentries. It's both. And this created one of the most powerful and lasting images of leadership ever. The workers kept on building, but now they were armed. Think about that. A trowel in one hand to build the future, and a sword in the other to defend it. They were simultaneously builders and warriors. And to fight the fear that was gripping his people, Nehemiah didn't just give them weapons. He gave them a reason. He told them, remember the Lord, connecting them to their faith. But then he made it personal, reminding them to fight for your brothers, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your homes. He gave their courage a purpose. So, what can we take away from all this? I mean, this is an ancient story, but it's not just a history lesson. It is a timeless blueprint for how to lead when things get tough. It all comes down to this idea: the wise work and defend strategy. It's this principle that you can't just sit back and hope for the best. Real, meaningful progress means you have to be actively building your vision while at the very same time, you're protecting it from the things that want to tear it all down. And that leaves us with one final thought. Whether you're leading a company, a team, a family, or even just navigating your own life, you're going to face opposition. So the question for us is, what's the wall you're trying to build? And what are the swords you need to carry to protect it? What does it look like for you to build with one hand and defend with the other?